ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
President Trump impeached after last week's Capitol riot in a historic second charge. The video message he released just hours after the vote. And California speeding up its vaccine rollout, opening up eligibility for residents 65 and older. How that expansion will work.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
And good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson. I'm joined remotely by my co-anchor Lindsay Pena. We're going to be checking in with her shortly. But first,
on this vote, the ayes are 232. The nays are 197.
An historic first. The House impeaching President Trump for a second time, making him the only U.S. president to be impeached twice. Today's vote comes just 1 week after that violent mob took over the U.S. Capitol in that deadly insurrection. 10 House Republicans, including one from California, joined Democrats to impeach the president. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze is in Washington to explain the vote and what happens next.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
A historic day in the House chamber, 1 week after it was mobbed by pro-Trump rioters. Lawmakers voting to impeach President Donald Trump for the second time, a first in American history.
He must go. He is a clear and present danger to the nation that we all love.
The House voting on a single article charging President Trump with incitement of insurrection by encouraging his supporters to march on the Capitol. Several Republicans joining the House's more than 200 Democrats to achieve the simple majority needed to impeach.
With a heavy heart and clear resolve, I will vote yes on these articles of impeachment.
But many other GOP members are still standing by the president.
This is a reckless impeachment. This will only bring up the hate and fire more than ever before.
The debate on the House floor taking place in a Capitol building fortified with security and where gunfire rang out 7 days ago. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi touring the perimeter in a starkly different image than at this time last week. More than 6,000 National Guard members are already in Washington, some even sleeping on the Capitol's floors. And defense officials say up to 20,000 Guardsmen could be in the city before Inauguration Day in 1 week. And amid worrying new details, the FBI had warned that extremists were heading into Washington last week determined to wage war, and with the possibility of more threats ahead, President Trump issuing a new statement, read on the House floor by one of his staunchest allies in Congress.
I urge that there must be no violence, no lawbreaking, no vandalism of any kind.
And ABC News has learned the Senate will not come back early to start an impeachment trial, so the earliest it could begin is January 19th. That could pose problems for President-elect Joe Biden's agenda. Remember, he will be inaugurated 1 day later, January 20th. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, the Capitol.
And just hours after the impeachment vote, President Trump released a video message condemning the rioters.
I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence.
President Trump did not take responsibility for inciting last week's riot, and there was no mention of his second impeachment in that video.
People will be held accountable.
San Diego DA Summer Stephan sending a strong warning to protesters planning to riot in the days leading up to Joe Biden's inauguration. As ABC 10 News reporter Rena Nakano explains, there is a big difference between peaceful demonstration and mob violence.
San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan says what happened on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol was an embarrassment.
What we saw was a despicable affront to our democracy.
According to FBI intelligence, there are armed protests planned in all 50 states leading up to Inauguration Day. Stephan and U.S. District Attorney Bob Brewer say that kind of behavior, should it happen in San Diego, will be prosecuted to the fullest.
Violence, looting, assault on other citizens or police officers, that's just not going to be accepted. That is not a protest, and you cannot hide behind the First Amendment, not here in San Diego.
Stephan says there is a clear difference between peaceful protest and uncontrollable violence. 3 people were arrested after Saturday's incident in Pacific Beach, and in the last year, the DA's office has charged 28 felony cases stemming from the violent riots.
This will not be tolerated.
Stephan suggests protesters to ask questions before leaving the house.
Is the organizer saying disguise your face or bring some kind of weapon, a stick, an umbrella? We don't want people to get sucked in where they're going to something they think is a peaceful protest that turns into a criminal event.
And if you notice that something isn't right, report it to authorities.
Share any information, even as to their relatives or their neighbors, that they feel that violence might be afoot.
Rena Nakano, ABC 10 News.
Stephan says for imminent threats, call 911, and for other tips, you can contact the FBI. And you can keep up with any developments by downloading our free mobile app. Just go to the App Store and search 10 News.
All right, now to the coronavirus in San Diego County. Here are the latest numbers. More than 3,200 new cases were reported today. That brings our total now to more than 201,000. And there were also 54 new deaths. That brings that total to 1,952. In a major expansion, California is now allowing everyone 65 and older to get the COVID-19 vaccine in Phase 1B. It's all part of an effort to ramp up the slower than expected vaccine rollout. Our ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti explains how San Diego County says we're not there quite yet, and it will likely be a slow process to get to 65-year-olds as the focus is still on those healthcare workers.
California announced Wednesday that the age for Phase 1B has dropped from 75 to 65. But in San Diego County, the focus is still on 1A, which is healthcare staff. The move from 75 to 65 will be big in San Diego County. There are close to 200,000 people older than 75 and close to 500,000 older than 65, but not that many vaccinations, especially with 1A still not complete yet.
If you open up to a larger pool, it sort of dilutes the effect of giving it to the people that have the highest risk of dying.
Sharp, Scripps, and Kaiser have all said they're not ready to move to 1B. The county says individual providers can start to move to 1B if they have the doses, but the focus should still be on those who need it most, with a priority on healthcare workers and the oldest people.
As we tiptoe into Phase 1B, that we start with the age and medical condition, and then as more doses become available, we move into that essential worker and occupational risk category.
Dr. Reimers says as more people become eligible, it's crucial for the community to know which phase they're in and keep track of when they're up. Then you should have options for where to go.
The idea is we want to have a no wrong door approach. So if you get the notification and you can go down to a mass vaccination site at Petco Park, go ahead and do it. That's fine. If you're in with your own doctor and your own doctor's offices has vaccines ready to give you, then go ahead and do it.
He says they're talking about creating a dashboard or app for people to input their information and find out when they're eligible, then get notifications when it's your turn. Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
Dr. Reimers adds that healthcare workers are already short-staffed because of caring for positive patients and testing people, so there will be a new obstacle with having enough people to give out vaccinations. Any physicians, dentists, nurses, paramedics, and EMTs, they are asked to volunteer to help vaccinate. Allergic reactions in some vaccine recipients caused delays at San Diego County's Vaccination Super Center just today after it opened. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo is joining us with a look at what happened and the county trying to figure out what caused these reactions. Laura.
Steve, well, these reactions are still under investigation, but there were EMTs and ambulances on hand just as they are every day, just in case these reactions do happen. Now, I want to show you some video from Sky 10 just moments after the reactions happened, leading to these delays at that super station. A line of cars could be seen heading into the vaccine station. Some reported having to wait for a long time, and others say they were turned away. The county says this was done out of an abundance of caution after 6 apparent allergic reactions in people after they got the vaccine. The county says they slowed the vaccinations down to be able to investigate and also switched out the lot they were using just in case it had to do with that specific lot. The county says the concern was how many reactions happened in such a short amount of time.
And it was just the clustering of them together that led them to do I think a great slowdown to be able to assess the situation. Again, those cases are still under investigation, and it'd be premature to comment on any greater detail than that.
Again, as Dr. McDonald just said, those vaccine reactions are still under investigation. Dr. McDonald also said that the Superstation will be open late today to accommodate for all of those appointments that were already scheduled and were delayed because of this. Reporting live, Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
And besides today's hiccup at the Superstation, the county is also short on people to actually give out those doses. The county is trying to ramp up vaccine distribution by the end of the week. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz shares their pleas to the public for help.
We're good to go. That's it. Welcome to the club.
County officials say they're currently vaccinating about 4,000 people per day at the new Superstation at Petco Park. By Friday, they're hoping to boost that number to 5,000. But in order to do that, they need your help.
Doing everything we can to get volunteers. If you are a healthcare worker who might be eligible to administer vaccines and you have some volunteer time, please go to healthcarevolunteers.ca.gov.
The county says not only do they not have enough vaccinators, but they also haven't been given enough vaccines from the state. With healthcare workers tied up in overwhelmed ICUs, the county is trying to figure out where to pull resources.
We will be making some modest changes to our testing, maybe a slight dip in some of those numbers to take some of those public health nurses for vaccination sites.
Volunteers with healthcare backgrounds are being recruited to join the County Medical Reserve Corps. Applicants must be licensed in California, actively working, or recently retired.
Our workforce is doing a tremendous job with our sickest, but we want to get these vaccines into arms. If you have a license, if you want to help, you can do just 2 4-hour shifts a month.
The county will verify the license statuses of all applicants, and if approved, will provide special training.
We've had hundreds of people just in this past week volunteer. We had 1,600 Medical Reserve Corps volunteers to start with, even before coronavirus.
The county says medical students are also eligible to apply under the supervision of a doctor or nurse. Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
ICU capacity for Southern California is still at 0. If you would like to volunteer to administer vaccines, there is a link on our website at 10news.com. Meanwhile, south of the border, Tijuana residents are starting to get the COVID vaccine. Our media partners Televisa sent us this video today of the first shots being given to frontline medical workers. More than 9,000 doses of the vaccine arrived in Baja last night. A military convoy escorted them into the city to make sure they went to where they were needed. Nearly 6,000 Baja California residents have died from COVID.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria will deliver his first State of the City address today. Because of the pandemic, of course, that speech will be done virtually, but you can watch it online. Gloria is expected to lay out his priorities for his first year in office, including how to manage the city's budget with a projected $124 million deficit looming. His speech is scheduled to start at 6 o'clock tonight, so here in less than an hour. A big milestone today in the years-long efforts to make the Bluffs in Del Mar safer. Today, crews finished 8 months of work to put in support columns and new drainage channels and improvements to other drains. There have been several collapses in recent years as the North County Bluffs, they have eroded. 3 people were killed in a collapse in Encinitas last year. This was phase 4 of that stabilization project. Phase 5 won't start until next year.